Hello, everyone. When I close my eyes and think of the Alps, I see snow that sparkles like tiny diamonds, forests that whisper secrets in the wind, and mountains that look like they're holding up the sky. But behind all that beauty, the Alps are also wild and fierce. They test those who live among them, and sometimes only courage and hope can help you survive. This is the story I want to share with you, the story of a sanctuary. Not just a place of stone or wood, but a feeling, a safe space built by love, bravery, and the will to go on even when the world feels frozen. In the middle of towering peaks and storms that howl louder than wolves, people found ways to protect each other. They shared fire when the night was colder than fear, and they shared bread even when their hands were empty. The sanctuary became more than a shelter, it became a promise: you are not alone. Imagine standing on a cliff, the snow biting your face, not knowing what tomorrow will bring, but then someone reaches out their hand. That is survival. Not just climbing down the mountain, but finding strength in each other. The Alps can break you if you face them alone. But when hearts join together, when kindness is stronger than the cold, survival becomes a story worth telling. And that sanctuary, hidden among the peaks, proves that even in the hardest storms, hope always has a home. Thank you. The Alps rise high and mighty, stretching across the sky like enormous guardians of the earth, and when people look at them, they often see only beauty at first. The peaks glisten under blankets of snow, sparkling in the sunlight like they were made of crystal. Meadows bloom with colors so vivid they look painted by hand, and rivers run clear and fast, carving paths through valleys that seem untouched by time. To stand among the Alps is to feel small and yet connected to something vast, something ancient that existed long before us and will remain long after. It is no wonder that so many are drawn to this place, as if it holds a promise of wonder, peace, and endless adventure. The silence of the mountains feels sacred, broken only by the wind or the distant sound of bells on grazing animals. There is a sense of freedom in every breath of the crisp air, and for many, the Alps feel like a sanctuary of nature's perfection. But beauty can sometimes be a disguise for danger, and the Alps remind us of this again and again. The same snow that sparkles under the sun can fall in avalanches with the force of thunder, sweeping everything in its path without mercy. The rivers that look calm and clear can swell with ice, cold water, rushing so fast that even the strongest cannot stand against them. Trails that appear safe in daylight can vanish under storms, leaving travelers lost in a world of white where every direction looks the same. The air that feels refreshing can quickly turn into a bitter wind that cuts through skin and bone, making survival a constant battle. Nature in the Alps is not gentle. It is powerful, untamed, and often unforgiving, testing the strength and spirit of anyone who dares to step too far into its embrace. The danger of the Alps is not just in their storms or avalanches, but also in the silence that follows. When the snow buries paths and covers landmarks, it erases the familiar, creating a blank world where orientation becomes almost impossible. The beauty of the snow is dazzling, but it hides cliffs, cracks, and unstable ground underneath, and what looks like a gentle slope can become a deadly trap. The forests, though enchanting, are thick and filled with shadows, where one wrong turn can take you deeper into confusion. Nights come early in winter, and when darkness falls in the mountains, the beauty that seemed inviting in the day transforms into something eerie and threatening. The Alps have always been a place of contradiction, breathtaking views and terrifying risks woven together into one landscape. For people living among the mountains, this duality is a part of everyday life. They admire the peaks but also respect their dangers, knowing how quickly conditions can change. Shepherds, travelers, and villagers learn to read the signs of weather in the sky and the snow under their feet, because even the smallest mistake can mean the difference between safety and disaster. They understand that the same meadow that blooms in spring can be buried under snow taller than a house in winter. They know that each beautiful morning may carry within it the seeds of an evening storm. Even the animals of the Alps, embody this balance of beauty and danger. Eagles soar gracefully above cliffs, symbols of freedom, yet they circle with eyes sharp enough to find the smallest prey below. Ibex climb steep rocky walls, moving with elegance that seems almost magical, but they live in constant risk of falls and avalanches. Wolves and lynx roam quietly, rarely seen, their presence both feared and respected. Life here is always about survival, a dance between thriving in the splendor of the mountains and staying alive in their harshness. The contrast of beauty and danger is what makes the Alps unforgettable. They are not simply mountains, they are living reminders of how fragile humans are when faced with the raw strength of nature. They offer awe and inspiration, but they also demand respect. One moment, they make you feel as though you are standing on the roof of the world, and the next, they remind you how easily everything can be taken away. Those who come to the Alps seeking only their beauty soon learn that to survive here, one must see both sides of the mountains, the dazzling wonder and the fierce danger hidden within. A sanctuary is often thought of as a place, a building with walls and a roof where someone can rest safely. In the Alps, the meaning of sanctuary stretches far beyond that simple idea. Among the mountains, where storms rise without warning and snow can swallow paths in a single night, a sanctuary is not just a structure made of wood or stone. It becomes something invisible, something felt rather than touched, created through moments of care, through gestures of kindness, and through the quiet determination to protect life in a place where survival is never guaranteed. The Alps, with their wild beauty and untamed strength, demand more than ordinary courage, and because of that, sanctuary in this setting carries a weight that cannot be measured by walls alone. It is the invisible warmth that pushes back the cold, the bond of trust that steadies shaking hands, the certainty that even in danger there exists a place where fear does not rule. When travelers find themselves lost in the vast whiteness of a snowstorm, sanctuary might appear in the shape of a small cabin hidden behind pines, smoke rising faintly from its chimney, promising not only shelter but also the hope of life continuing for another day. Yet even more powerful than the physical protection of a roof is the atmosphere inside such a place. A flickering fire, the sound of bread breaking, the quiet company of another heartbeat near. By these are the true signs of sanctuary. It is not the wooden beams that give safety, but the presence of warmth, light, and shared humanity. The Alps reveal how fragile people can be, but they also reveal how strong sanctuary becomes when it grows out of care and connection rather than just walls. For those who live in villages tucked between cliffs and valleys, sanctuary is built every day in the way neighbors support each other. It might be someone carrying firewood for an elder who cannot climb the slope, or families opening their doors to travelers who have been caught by nightfall. A sanctuary in this sense is not marked on maps. It is found in gestures that turn strangers into companions and fear into courage. The Alps can isolate, surrounding people with silence and distance, but sanctuary breaks through that isolation with the knowledge that one is not alone. Sometimes sanctuary is only a single candle glowing in the window of a mountain hut, guiding a weary soul through the snow. Sometimes it is the sound of laughter echoing in a small room when outside the wind screams against the shutters. These moments are small, almost fragile, but they carry enormous weight in a place where the environment itself is always pressing, always demanding. The Alps have a way of stripping away what is unnecessary, leaving behind only what truly matters. In that way, sanctuary reveals itself not as luxury, not as comfort, but as a shield woven from light, warmth, and belonging. For the shepherd leading flocks through narrow passes, sanctuary is knowing there will be pasture and water waiting beyond the next ridge. For the child walking home in early snow, sanctuary is the sight of smoke curling from the chimney of her house, promising that warmth and family are close. For travelers caught in an avalanche path, sanctuary is the moment they are pulled free by helping hands, breath returning in gasps as life pushes back against the mountain's weight. Each of these sanctuaries is different, yet each carries the same essence, the reminder that safety, however fragile, can be created through care, persistence, and the refusal to surrender. Even the mountains themselves, harsh as they are, sometimes hold sanctuary in unexpected ways. A hollow in the rock may shield a climber from a sudden gust. A cluster of trees may break the force of a storm. A cave may hold enough stillness to preserve life when the outside world becomes unbearable. Nature, though unforgiving, offers these quiet gifts, and they remind us that sanctuary can also exist within the very wilderness that threatens. The idea of sanctuary in the Alps becomes a story of survival, of strength found not only in structures but in spirit. It is the unspoken agreement that where there is danger, there will also be protection, however small, however fragile. It is the fire that burns against the cold, the door that stays open, the hand that reaches out, the belief that even among the fiercest peaks there will always be places where fear cannot conquer. Survival in the Alps has never been just about strength or skill, but about unity and kindness that hold people together when the mountains seem determined to break them apart. The peaks rise in silence, the snow hides dangers beneath its glittering surface, and storms appear with little warning, reminding everyone who lives there that no one can truly stand against such power alone. The cold presses into bones, the winds tear at clothing, and hunger creeps in when paths to food and supplies are cut off. And yet what allows people to endure these trials is not only their own determination, but also the support of those around them. Survival becomes a shared effort, where every small act of kindness can mean the difference between despair and hope. When families in remote villages hear the howl of winter winds, they do not close their doors only to themselves. They gather together, sharing wood, food, and warmth, so that no one is left to face the bitter season alone. A loaf of bread divided, a blanket offered, or even a place near the fire for someone who has none becomes a symbol of unity stronger than the snow outside. In the Alps, kindness is not an afterthought but a necessity. Without it, even the strongest risk being swallowed by the cold, but with it, survival becomes possible even in the harshest nights. Travelers who wander too far into the wilderness quickly learn that kindness from strangers is often what saves them. A shepherd may guide them back to the path when fog hides every landmark, or a villager may open their door when darkness falls and the storm grows louder. Each gesture may seem small, but in the mountains, small things carry great power. A single hand reaching out to help someone stand again can mean life continuing where it might have ended. Unity in such moments transforms fear into resilience, as people realize that together they can face dangers that would overwhelm them if they stood alone. The stories told across generations in the Alps often carry this same lesson. Tales of avalanches survived because neighbors dug through snow all night. Stories of children found and sheltered in cabins when they had been lost on their way home. Memories of entire villages coming together to rebuild what storms had torn apart. These stories are not only history, they are proof that survival in the Alps has always depended on the ability of people to see beyond themselves and offer help even when their own lives are hard. The mountains are too vast, the dangers too sudden, for anyone to survive without unity, and that truth is carved into the way of life of those who call the Alps their home. Even in the smallest details, unity and kindness reveal their strength. When food supplies run low, families combine what they have so that meals can be shared, no matter how modest. When storms block paths and the world outside becomes silent under layers of snow, people gather in groups, telling stories, singing songs, and holding on to one another's presence as if it were the only light left. Kindness is not only a practical necessity, but also an emotional one, giving courage to hearts that might otherwise fall into despair. Animals in the Alps show the same truth in their own way. Herds of ibex or chamois survive storms by clustering together, shielding one another from the worst of the wind. Birds huddle side by side in hollows and branches, sharing warmth as they wait for the weather to ease. Even in nature, Unity is a form of survival, and kindness in its simplest form, the willingness to stay close, to share warmth. To protect is a thread that runs through every living thing in the mountains. The harshness of the Alps strips away illusions of independence. A traveler who believes they can conquer the peaks alone quickly learns otherwise when the snow falls faster than expected, or when darkness arrives sooner than planned. It is in those moments, when human strength proves too small, that the kindness of another becomes the greatest force of all. Unity gives people the power to endure what they cannot face alone, and kindness transforms the cold landscape into a place where even in danger there is still hope. Hope in the midst of storms is not something fragile in the Alps, but something fierce, glowing like a hidden fire that refuses to go out no matter how strong the winds may blow. Storms in the mountains are overwhelming, the kind that erase paths in moments and leave the world blank with snow, where even sound is swallowed in the heavy silence that follows. The skies darken quickly, the wind sharpens until it feels like knives against the skin, and the snow falls so thickly that even a few steps ahead seem impossible to see. In such moments, despair is always waiting, whispering that there is no escape, no way forward, only endless cold. Yet even then, hope finds ways to rise, small at first, a spark that seems insignificant against the storm, but steady enough to guide one more step, one more breath, one more chance to survive. When travelers lose their way in a snowstorm, hope becomes the voice that tells them to keep moving rather than lie down in the cold. It is the strength that lifts heavy feet when every muscle aches and the body begs for rest. Sometimes hope comes from memory, the thought of family waiting, of voices at home, of warmth promised somewhere beyond the storm. Sometimes it is nothing more than the faint outline of a tree, a shadow in the distance, or the shape of a hut that may hold shelter. Even the smallest signs become symbols of survival, and the belief that something better waits ahead keeps hearts alive when nature itself seems determined to end them. In villages tucked into the valleys, storms can isolate people for weeks, cutting off roads, silencing communication, and burying homes under snow. Yet inside those homes, candles burn, fires glow, and voices continue to sing, telling stories that reach back through generations. Hope in those moments is not only individual but shared, something passed from one person to another like light from a single flame that spreads across a room. Families comfort each other, neighbors bring food, and laughter somehow finds its way into conversations even as the storm rages outside. The Alps teach that storms may be stronger than walls, but they can never extinguish the hope that lives within the people who face them together. For those who live close to the mountains, hope often carries the shape of tomorrow. After a long night of howling winds, the first glow of sunrise spilling over the peaks feels like a promise that the storm has limits, that it will not last forever. The sight of snow settling softly after a night of violence reminds people that beauty still exists in the same world that holds danger. The Alps are full of these contradictions, but it is precisely in the middle of fear and danger that hope shines brightest, because it is then that it matters most. Hope also reveals itself in acts of courage. When someone risks their life to rescue another buried in snow, when villagers climb into icy winds to guide travelers to safety, when families share their last supplies knowing others need them more, these acts are not born only of duty, but of hope. They carry the belief that survival is possible, that light will return, that storms are not forever. Each act of bravery adds to the collective strength that allows entire communities to withstand the fierce winters of the Alps. Even the natural world reflects this persistence of hope. Beneath heavy layers of snow, seeds rest quietly, waiting for spring. Trees stand firm against the weight of ice, their roots gripping the soil deep beneath the frozen ground. Animals endure the cold, finding ways to survive until the warmth returns. Life in the Alps is a cycle of struggle and renewal, and every living thing holds onto hope as surely as it holds onto life itself. For a child growing up in these mountains, hope is often learned by watching the older generations endure. Grandparents who tell stories of past storms survived, parents who carry on their work despite the cold, neighbors who share with open hands. All of these become lessons that hope is not something distant or abstract, but something woven into daily life. It is seen in the flicker of lanterns through a blizzard, in the taste of a shared meal, in the sound of footsteps finally reaching the door after being feared lost. The Alps, with their storms and silences, show that hope is not the absence of fear, but the strength to keep going despite it. It is the light carried in hearts that refuse to be broken, the quiet determination that tomorrow will come, and the unshakable belief that even in the wildest storm, something better waits on the other side. Strength found in shared humanity is one of the most powerful forces in the Alps. Survival often depends less on physical endurance and more on the invisible threads that connect people to one another. The mountains, with their towering cliffs and endless snow, remind everyone of their own smallness. Alone, a person may falter in the face of storms, avalanches, and bitter cold. But together, people find a resilience that reaches beyond what any individual could carry. The Alps have always been a place where the strength of humanity is revealed not in isolation, but in the willingness to stand beside others, to share burdens, and to transform fear into courage through companionship. In the quiet villages scattered between valleys, the rhythm of life is built on this understanding. Neighbors do not live as strangers, but as part of a web that holds everyone together. When the first heavy snow falls close off roads, it is common for families to gather and make sure no one is left without food or firewood. When storms howl across the peaks, villagers listen for signals or bells from those still outside, ready to open doors no matter how late or dangerous the night may be. Shared humanity is not an abstract idea here. It is the daily practice of care, as essential as bread and water. The true measure of this strength is often seen during moments of crisis. An avalanche, sweeping across a slope, does not leave time for long debates or hesitation. But those who hear the roar rush toward the danger, digging with their bare hands, if necessary to uncover whoever might be trapped beneath the snow. These rescues are not carried out for reward or recognition, but from the simple truth that another life holds value equal to one's own. In these moments, shared humanity becomes stronger than fear, and strength appears in the unity of hearts beating with the same determination to save. Stories told by mountain families carry this theme through generations. Tales of caravans lost and then found by villagers, of children sheltered when storms separated them from their parents, of food divided even when there was barely enough to survive the winter, all remind new generations that strength has always come from looking beyond oneself. In these stories, heroes are not those who conquered the mountains alone, but those who reached out, who shared warmth and protection, and who refused to let another face the wilderness unaided. Even strangers become part of this circle of humanity when they step into the Alps. Travelers, climbers, and wanderers who may have begun their journeys alone often discover that survival is tied to the kindness of people they have never met before. A guide offering directions through fog, a villager handing out soup, a family giving space by the fire. Each gesture strengthens the invisible bond that holds people together against the wild indifference of the mountains. It is through these connections that strength multiplies, making the impossible seem endurable. The Alps themselves, though indifferent and unyielding, highlight the need for this shared humanity. The cold, the storms, the endless distances all press down on individuals, but they also draw people closer to one another. A single flame may flicker and die in the wind, but many flames together create a light that cannot be so easily extinguished. A single voice may be lost in the roar of a blizzard, but many voices raised together bring reassurance and direction. The mountains teach that the human spirit is strongest not in solitude, but in harmony with others. Children raised in these valleys often learn early that their strength is tied to their community. They are taught to carry wood not only for their own homes, but for those who cannot, to bring food not only to their families, but also to neighbors who might be in need. These lessons grow into habits, and habits grow into values that shape entire communities. The result is a culture where survival is not measured by individual toughness, but by the bonds of compassion that tie lives together. Even the smallest acts reflect this truth. A traveler lost on a snowy trail may be guided home by the simple gesture of a lantern raised in the distance. A family cut off from supplies may find comfort in the arrival of neighbors with just enough to share. These moments may appear ordinary, but in the Alps, they are the foundations of survival, built on the recognition that every life is linked. Strength here is not measured by the size of one's steps up a mountain, but by the willingness to walk beside others. No matter how long the journey or how deep the snow,